Agile teams often work with two distinct types of planning events: program increment planning and sprint planning. While both serve to create alignment and shared understanding, they work at different levels of detail, time horizons, and organizational scale. PI planning ensures that strategy and vision are translated into program-level objectives, while sprint planning ensures those program-level goals are broken into manageable, short-term actions that a single team can realistically deliver. Together, they form the backbone of planning in scaled agile environments. PI planning is a large-scale, cadence-based event in the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe. It typically occurs every 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the length of the program increment. The event involves the entire Agile Release Train, which may include 5 to 12 Agile teams, each composed of 5 to 11 individuals. Leaders, business owners, product management, and system architects all participate. The purpose is to establish alignment around the business vision, define PI objectives, and address cross-team dependencies. The event creates transparency and synchronizes everyone on the same timeline. On the other hand, sprint planning is a recurring team-focused event that happens at the start of every sprint, usually every 2 weeks. The Scrum team, product owners, Scrum Master, and developers, come together to decide what work they can realistically deliver in the sprint and how they will accomplish it. Unlike PI planning, which focuses on features and program-level objectives, sprint planning deals directly with user stories, tasks, and acceptance criteria. It ensures clarity of scope and creates a concrete plan for execution in the short term. The participants highlight another major difference. PI planning is a collaborative, large group event involving stakeholders across multiple teams. Business owners bring priorities, product managers outline features, and system architects provide technical guidance. Teams then plan their contributions and identify risks and dependencies with one another. In contrast, sprint planning involves only the Scrum team. The product owner proposes backlog items, developers estimate and commit to work, and the Scrum Master ensures the process is smooth. The smaller scope makes sprint planning more tactical and execution-driven. The time horizon distinguishes the two events even further. PI planning looks at an entire increment, usually 10 weeks, and tries to forecast the flow of value during that period. Teams create a roadmap of when features might be delivered and commit to PI objectives that align with business priorities. Sprint planning, however, only focuses on the next 1 to 4 weeks, depending on sprint length. It is much more granular, asking not what can we do over the next quarter, but what can we finish in the next 2 weeks. The scope of work is also different. PI planning works with features and capabilities, often at the level of epics broken down into features. Teams use these to define their PI objectives, which are statements of intent such as improve checkout performance by 15%. Sprint planning, by contrast, breaks these objectives into user stories and tasks. Stories might include, as a shopper, I want to save my cart for later so that I can return and check out easily, which can then be divided into coding, testing, and integration tasks. PI planning is about value alignment, while sprint planning is about technical and task-level execution. The output of PI planning is a collection of PI objectives for each team, along with a program board that visualizes dependencies, milestones, and delivery sequencing across all teams in the ART. It also produces a shared understanding of risks, often captured through a ROAM process: resolved, owned, accepted, mitigated. The output of sprint planning, in contrast, is a sprint backlog containing the chosen user stories, detailed tasks, and a sprint goal that gives focus to the iteration. The sprint backlog is lightweight and changes over time, but the sprint goal is a firm commitment that guides daily work. So, the frequency and duration of each event differ significantly. PI planning happens once per increment, typically every 10 weeks and lasts 2 full days. It requires significant coordination and preparation, but pays off by aligning large groups on shared goals. On the other hand, sprint planning is more lightweight and iterative. It happens every sprint, typically lasting 2 to 4 hours for a 2-week sprint. This frequent cadence ensures that teams adapt quickly to change, even within the larger boundaries set by PI planning. So in terms of focus, PI planning is really about alignment and synchronization. It makes sure that all teams in the art are moving toward the same outcomes and that cross-team dependencies are identified and managed. Sprint planning, by contrast, is more about commitment and execution. It ensures the team has a realistic and detailed plan for the upcoming sprint and that everyone knows their role in achieving the sprint goal. Both are essential, but they, address very different levels of planning. Even though these two planning events are pretty different, they're actually interconnected. PI planning provides the strategic context and objectives, which sprint planning then translates into actionable steps. Without PI planning, teams might lose sight of the bigger picture and end up working in silos. And without sprint planning, objectives could stay too high level and never get broken down into achievable increments. A helpful analogy here is that PI planning is like planning the entire semester at school, deciding what courses you'll take and what your learning goals are, while sprint planning is more like preparing for this week's assignments, tests, and group projects. To sum it all up, PI planning operates at the program level, looking months ahead and involving many teams and stakeholders to make sure there's alignment with business priorities. Sprint planning, on the other hand, works at the team level, looking weeks ahead and focusing on short-term delivery and execution. PI planning emphasizes vision, dependencies, and alignment, while sprint planning is all about commitment, detail, and adaptability. Both events are honestly vital to making sure agile teams can deliver value consistently, strategically, and predictably.